You ever crawl out from under a 98 F-150 with grease in your ears and rust flakes in your mouth just to check your phone and see no messages from the woman you've spent the last 5 years building a life for? That was my Tuesday. My name's Ryan. I'm 30 years old. I live in Waco, Texas, and I work full-time at McKinney's Auto Repair just off Highway 6. Every morning, I unlock the bay doors at 7, grab a cup of burnt coffee from the back, and start wrenching on whatever broke down overnight. Trucks, beat-up sedans, old lawn equipment, I've fixed it all. By the time I get home, it's usually dark, and I reheat whatever leftovers Emily left in the fridge, if she cooked it all. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Emily was different when we met. I was 25, she was 20. She was a second-year college student at Baylor, studying law and talking big about defending the innocent, fighting for justice, all that. I fell hard. She had this fire in her, this drive that made me believe she was going somewhere. I wanted to be the guy who helped her get there. I took every extra shift I could. I worked weekends, holidays, hell. Even did some freelance break jobs in my own apartment lot when rent got tight. She studied, I cleaned, she stressed over exams. I handled the bills, laundry, dishes, all of it. I kept the apartment quiet so she could focus, and I didn't complain, not once. I told myself it was love, real love, the kind that builds something. I had dreams too, sure, opening my own garage someday, maybe racing again like I used to back in high school, but I shelved all that. Emily's law degree came first, and when she talked about her future, big city firm, changing lives, I felt proud. I'd watch her speak and think, that's my girl. Even if I was dead tired, hands bleeding, back aching, it was worth it. Lately, though, something's been off. She's out more, always at the library or group studying. Her texts got shorter, her goodnight kisses quicker. I asked once if everything was all right, and she smiled, said she was just stressed. I let it go. I figured it was finals, or internships, or just burnout. I didn't push, I trusted her. I had to. Besides, graduation was coming up. After 5 long years, Emily was finally finishing law school. I marked the date months in advance, bought new boots, took the day off. I kept thinking, this is it. All this work, all the sacrifices, it's finally gonna pay off. I was dead wrong. I got to the auditorium 40 minutes early, parked my truck in a line of Teslas and shiny Lexuses, and walked across the lot with my hands in my pockets, feeling like I was dragging mud through someone else's life. My work boots echoed on the marble floors like they didn't belong, and heads turned when I walked in, like I was lost. I found a seat near the middle, close enough to see the stage, but far enough to keep to myself. Everyone around me smelled like perfume and money. I smelled like motor oil and bar soap. Didn't matter. I was here for Emily. When she stepped out with the other grads, wearing that black cap and gown, I felt my chest tighten. Not in a bad way, just pride. She looked strong, confident, like she belonged up there. I scanned the crowd for her eyes, waited for her to look my way just once so I could give her a nod, a small smile, something, but she never did. Her eyes were locked on the front row, where a small group stood clapping and smiling too wide, like they were watching their own personal champion. And right in the middle of them stood a tall guy in a charcoal gray suit, clean-shaven, slick hair, that kind of casual confidence I've only ever seen in lawyers on TV. I didn't know him, but I knew of him. Nathan, she'd mentioned him once or twice. Classmate, study partner. She stopped at the edge of the stage after getting her diploma and turned toward that group, not toward me. And the announcer handed her a mic. I thought maybe she'd give one of those quick thank you speeches they let top grads do sometimes. She did. Just not the one I expected. I want to thank everyone who helped me get here, she said. Especially my husband, Nathan. He's the reason I'm standing here today. I didn't hear the rest. Husband. I felt something crack inside me, like a bolt sheared off in my chest. I sat there frozen, the air heavy like someone had cut off the oxygen. No one else noticed. They clapped, smiled, took pictures. I was the only one sinking. Nathan stepped up and wrapped his arm around her waist while she smiled at him like that was home. They stood there for pictures while people clapped politely, snapping shots like they were posing for a magazine cover. I didn't even know I'd stood up until my knees bumped the chair in front of me. I couldn't breathe. My legs were shaking. My stomach turned cold. This couldn't be real. 5 years. 5 years of late nights, busted knuckles, empty bank accounts, and she just rewrote the whole story with one sentence. Like I was never in it. Some woman 2 seats over leaned to her husband and whispered, "They make such a beautiful couple." He nodded. I stumbled out into the aisle, people parting just enough for me to pass. I didn't make eye contact with anyone. My face felt hot. My hands were numb. I kept hearing her voice in my head. "Nathan's the reason I'm here today. Not me. Not the guy who held her through breakdowns, picked up her textbooks from the campus store when she was sick, worked double shifts so she wouldn't have to get a job. Nathan." The polite applause behind me turned into a roar as the next name was called. I felt like a ghost walking through noise, like no one could see what had just happened. I pushed open the doors and stepped out into the hallway, where everything was quieter, but not better. I'd never felt more erased in my entire life. I leaned against the wall just outside the auditorium doors, trying to catch my breath. My hands were still shaking, and I couldn't make sense of anything. The hum of the crowd inside kept rolling through the doors like background noise I couldn't shut off. 5 years. Gone like that. Ryan. I turned and saw Sarah rushing down the hallway, heels clicking fast against the tile. Her long brown hair was half up, like she'd gotten ready in a rush. She reached me, wide-eyed. What the hell just happened in there? Why did she say, wait, did I hear her say, husband? I didn't answer, just looked at her. Sarah had always been the one person in Emily's family who actually gave a damn about me. We'd talked a lot over the years, especially when Emily was too busy to answer her phone. "Ryan, say something," she pushed. "Please tell me I misheard that." "She said it," I said, my voice flat. "She called him her husband." Sarah blinked hard. "That doesn't make any sense. She told me you were coming, that she was excited you'd be here. She didn't say anything about Nathan. Hell, she barely mentioned him the few times I asked." I swallowed hard. "Guess she had her reasons." Sarah's mouth dropped open. "No, no way. She wouldn't just do that to you. She wouldn't blindside you like this. What the hell is she thinking?" I looked down the hallway, hoping I wouldn't see anyone else I recognized. I felt exposed, like people were about to start pointing, whispering, "That's him, the guy she dumped, the idiot." She was playing both sides, I muttered, keeping me in her back pocket while building a whole new life with him. Guess I just didn't fit into the version she wanted today. Sarah's eyes flashed. "I'm going back in there." She turned toward the doors. "She doesn't get to do this. She doesn't get to stand up in front of all those people and pretend you never existed. Screw that." I caught her wrist. "No." She twisted back around, looking furious. "Why not?" "Because she's already made her choice," I said. "She knew what she was doing. Don't waste your breath." Sarah yanked her arm away but didn't go back inside. She paced once, then turned to face me. "You worked your ass off for her. Everyone knew it. She used to brag about you. Said you were the reason she made it through law school, and now it's like I was a footnote," I finished, "or nothing at all." She stared at me, jaw clenched, chest rising and falling like she'd just run a mile. "I can't believe this. I don't get how someone flips the switch like that." We both turned as the doors opened and more people started coming out. I stepped back toward the wall again, trying to stay out of the way. I didn't want to be seen, and then I heard it. Emily's voice, just a few feet away, casual, like nothing happened. "Oh, Nathan, he's just a friend. We studied together a lot. That's it." I snapped my head toward the sound. She was standing with 2 older women, smiling, like the speech never happened, like she didn't just drop a nuke on everything. Sarah's face twisted. "She just said he's a friend." I didn't answer. My blood was boiling again, but underneath it was something colder, something that said, "You're not even real to her anymore." Everything I'd done, all those nights I stayed up waiting, all the calls I didn't get, the birthdays she forgot, none of it mattered. I'd already been erased. I turned to Sarah. "I can't be here." She opened her mouth, but I was already walking. Past the elevator, down the stairs, into the parking lot. The sun was still high, but everything felt dim. I kept walking. I didn't look back. I hit the parking lot and kept walking, straight past the rows of polished cars and proud families snapping photos under the streetlights. My feet felt heavy, like they were dragging every second of the last 5 years behind them. The air was cool, but I was sweating under my shirt. My chest ached like someone had cracked it open and left it hollow. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Nathan's the reason I'm here today. That line wouldn't shut off. It looped again and again, louder every time. When I finally reached my truck, I yanked the door open and dropped into the seat like I was falling. I slammed the door shut and sat there, hands gripping the wheel, breathing hard. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. She was gone. Not just physically. Gone. The Emily I loved, the one I worked myself to the bone for. The girl who used to fall asleep with her head in my lap while pretending to read court cases. She was long gone. And the worst part, I didn't even see it happening. I turned the key and the engine rumbled to life. That old V8 sound was the only thing that felt familiar anymore. I pulled out of the lot without looking back and got on the road. No plan, no destination, just away. Streetlights blurred past, gas stations, empty fields, then nothing, just me and the road. I drove for hours, headlights cutting through the dark. My phone buzzed once in my pocket, but I didn't check it. Could have been Sarah, could have been nobody. Either way, I wasn't ready to talk. All I could think about was how blind I'd been. All the mornings I got up early to pack her lunch before class. All the nights I stayed up folding laundry so she wouldn't have to. All the hours I put in under that damn lift, thinking I was building a life with someone who wanted me. I gave up my weekends, my dreams. Hell, I hadn't even raced since I met her, because she said it made her nervous. I thought it was love, real deep build-a-life love. But now it felt like I'd been nothing more than a placeholder, a pit stop on her way to someone shinier, newer, more professional. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles white. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt, but under the anger, buried beneath the heartbreak, something else started to rise. Clarity. She had moved on. She made that choice, on stage, in public, in front of everyone. She didn't just leave me, she erased me. So, what was I holding on to? I looked out at the empty road ahead, the horizon still black, but the sky starting to shift, just barely. And right there, in that silence, I made myself a promise. I was done begging to be seen, done being some ghost in the background of someone else's story. She chose Nathan, fine, let her have him, but she doesn't get to take me with her. I'm still here, still breathing, still standing, and no matter how much it hurts, I'm not letting this break me. I don't know what comes next, don't know what tomorrow looks like, but it sure as hell won't be me sitting around, waiting to be remembered. I pressed down on the gas and disappeared into the night. I got back to Waco just after sunrise, pulled into my spot at the apartment complex, and sat there for a full minute before killing the engine. I walked upstairs, peeled off my shirt, and collapsed into bed without even showering. Didn't sleep though, my brain wouldn't shut off. So the next day, I did what I knew how to do. I worked. I clocked into McKinney's before anyone else showed up. Tore into an old GMC that needed a full suspension rebuild. Spent 10 hours under the lift, grease up to my elbows, wrench in my hand, trying to sweat the betrayal out of my bones. Same thing the next day, and the next. Long hours, no distractions, no music, just tools and silence. Around day 4, my phone rang while I was elbow deep in a Civic's engine bay. I saw Sarah's name and almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. Her voice came through tight and fast. "Ryan, have you seen what's going around?" "What do you mean?" I said, wiping my hands on a shop towel. "Online, social media, some girl from the audience at graduation posted a video. You can hear Emily on stage, the 'Nathan's my husband' line. Then she cuts to you walking out. It blew up on TikTok, Facebook, everywhere." I didn't say anything. "She's panicking," Sarah continued. "She's telling people you misunderstood, that it was a joke, that she misspoke. But it's too late. Everyone saw it. She's trying to downplay the whole thing, but people are pissed." I sighed. "Let her deal with it." "You're kind of a hero now, Ryan," Sarah said, sounding half amused. "People are saying you gave up everything for her, and she tossed you like garbage. They're sharing your story like it's some underdog movie script." I hung up without saying much. I wasn't interested in sympathy from strangers. But that night, I opened my laptop for the first time all week and searched my name. There it was, posts, clips, comments. This guy worked for 5 years so she could live her dream, and she threw him away like nothing. Someone get this man a garage and a damn cold beer. She didn't deserve him. He built her up and she broke him. It was weird. I didn't know whether to be angry or grateful. Mostly, I just felt seen for the first time in a long time. A few days later, I saw him, Nathan. I was walking into the corner store for a drink after work when he stepped out. Suit, of course. Crisp white shirt. The guy looked like a cologne ad. He stopped when he saw me. I stopped too. We just stared at each other for a beat. He didn't speak, didn't smirk, just gave this half-assed nod, like we were on the same level, like we both knew how this story ended. My chest tightened. I wanted to swing, wanted to ask him what the hell he promised her, how long it had been going on, if she even told him about the 5 years I spent making sure she could afford textbooks and groceries. But I didn't say a word. I walked past him and inside, let the door close behind me like he wasn't even there. That was the moment something shifted. I realized I didn't need his answers, or her explanations. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. All those years I spent thinking I was only worth something if she believed in me. That ended the minute she gave my place to someone else. I was still here, still standing, still putting in the work. And for the first time, I started thinking, maybe my life didn't have to be some support role in someone else's dream. Maybe I was the damn story. No more being erased, no more letting someone else decide what my life was worth. It wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about me, and I wasn't going to waste another second chasing someone who walked away. 2 days after I passed Nathan outside that store, I got a message on Facebook. Some guy named Russ Matthews said he ran a couple hardware stores around McLennan County, saw the video, read the posts, and wanted to talk. Normally, I'd ignore something like that. I don't trust strangers online, and I sure as hell don't need anyone's pity. But the way he worded it caught my attention. I know what it feels like to build someone else's dream while you put yours on hold. You ever think about opening your own garage? I might be able to help. I stared at the screen a long time. My hands were still covered in brake dust from the Camry I was working on. That message stuck with me all night. Next morning, I met him at a diner just off of 35. He looked like every other old-school Texas guy. Ball cap, faded flannel, big calloused hands that showed he'd worked before he earned his money. "I like people who don't give up," he said over coffee. "You got the skills. You got the story. People root for someone like you." I squinted at him. "You offering charity or what?" He shook his head. "Nope. Offering a shot. I've got a closed-up tire shop in Valley Mills. Needs work, but the bones are good. If you want it, I'll help you get the paperwork rolling and front the first month's lease. The rest is on you." I didn't say yes right away. I went home, sat on my crappy couch, and looked around my one-bedroom apartment. Same sagging blinds, same cracked coffee table, same stack of unpaid medical bills from the time I threw out my back, lifting a transmission alone. I'd spent 5 years backing someone else's future. Maybe it was time I took a damn swing at my own. So I called him the next day. "I'm in," I said. And just like that, something shifted. I spent the next week watching videos on business licensing, LLCS marketing. I made spreadsheets, wrote out checklists, drove to that old shop in Valley Mills every night after work just to walk around the empty space and imagine what it could be. I was scared, no lie. What if it failed? What if people stopped caring? What if all I knew how to do was work under someone else's name? But I kept thinking about that moment in the parking lot, hearing Emily call someone else her husband like I was a distant memory. I wasn't going to live in anyone's shadow again. Not hers, not anyone's. I ordered a cheap binder off Amazon and started scribbling out names for the shop. Something bold, something that had me in it. I sketched out a layout for the bay lifts, the waiting area, even a little office in the back with a mini fridge and a place to put my boots. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt since before all this started. Excitement. It wasn't about proving anything to Emily anymore. This was about finally building something that was mine. No more background roles. No more sitting in the crowd while someone else took credit for the life I helped build. This time, the stage was mine. I thought saying yes to the shop was the hard part. Turns out, that was the easy step. Within the first week, I ran into every wall possible. The place in Valley Mills looked decent at first. Good bones, like Russ said. But the plumbing was shot, the wiring was outdated, and the old oil tanks hadn't been cleared out in years. Permits took forever. I had to chase down a dozen signatures just to replace a damn toilet. The bank dragged their feet on the small business loan, too. Wanted proof of income, projections, documentation I didn't even know existed. I spent more time Googling what is a business plan than I did under a hood, and folks around town. Some were excited, others, not so much. One guy at the hardware store said, "I'll give you 6 months maybe. Place like this ain't easy to keep afloat." Another just raised an eyebrow when I said I was going out on my own. "You sure you're ready for that?" Those words stuck with me, even when I pretended they didn't. But through all of it, Sarah showed up. She started coming by in the evenings, helping organize receipts, print flyers, fill out forms. She made an Instagram page for the shop and posted before and after pics of the space as we cleaned it up. She even made me a logo. I remember one night, we were sitting on the floor, surrounded by parts catalogs and takeout containers. I let out this long, frustrated sigh and said, "I don't know if I'm cut out for this." She looked at me dead in the face and said, "You built someone else's future for 5 years with nothing but your hands and a busted paycheck. You can damn sure build your own." That stuck too, but in a better way. It took 3.5 months of nonstop hustle, late nights, and learning everything the hard way. But eventually, I unlocked the front door of my shop, Ryan's Auto and Diesel, for the first time as the owner. The sign was crooked, the office still smelled like drywall mud, and the AC rattled louder than it should have. But it was mine. The first customer was a woman with a flat tire and a toddler in the back seat. I fixed it fast, didn't charge her a dime. She left a 5-star review that night with a photo of me waving at her kid. The second customer came from that review, then another, then another. Word of mouth picked up quick. People said I was honest, fast, fair, a guy who gave a damn. It wasn't easy work, never has been. But every time I flipped that shop light on in the morning, something in me lit up with it. I was no longer just fixing someone else's cars on someone else's clock. I was building something from the ground up. And then, of course, came her, Emily. The first tech showed up 3 weeks after opening, just her name on the screen. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't answer. A few days later, she called. I let it ring. Then another message. "I saw the shop. Looks good. Proud of you." That one almost got me. Almost. But I didn't respond. She had her chance. She made her choice. She got her suited-up husband and the picture-perfect ending she wanted. I wasn't going to be her emotional safety net just because life turned complicated. This shop, this was mine. Every bolt I tightened, every invoice I filled out, every damn call I answered with oil on my hands. It wasn't for her. It was for me. By the end of month 2, I was booked solid through the next week. Sarah helped with scheduling. I hired a local kid part-time to run pickups. People drove from across town just to get work done at my shop. And every time someone said, "You're the guy from that video, right?" I'd just nod and keep wrenching, because that version of me, the guy who got left behind, he was gone. This new version, he had grease under his nails, a full calendar, and no one to answer to but himself. It was a Tuesday morning, hot already, and I was halfway under a lifted Dodge Ram when I saw her shoes. Black heels, clean, sharp. Definitely not from around here. I rolled out from under the truck, wiped my face with a rag, and there she was, Emily, standing in the middle of my shop like she was lost. She looked good. Same sleek brown hair, same careful makeup. But she didn't look right. Not here, not in my space. "Ryan," she said, her voice soft, "can we talk?" I didn't answer right away, just stood and looked at her. I shouldn't have blindsided you like that," she said. "It wasn't supposed to happen that way." I crossed my arms. It did. She winced a little. "Everything got so complicated. You don't understand?" "No," I cut in. "You don't get to come here and say, I don't understand." I was there. I lived it. You just moved on without saying a word. Her eyes watered, but I didn't care. "I thought I had more time to figure things out," she said. "You were always so solid, so dependable. You thought I'd wait forever," I asked. "Keep playing the background while you rewrote the story." She looked down. "I made a mistake." I shook my head. "No, you made a choice. You chose Nathan. You stood on that stage and called him your husband. You didn't just leave me, Emily. You erased me." "I panicked," she said, her voice cracking. "Everything was happening so fast. I didn't mean for it to go that way." I laughed once, cold. "Yeah, it still did." She stepped closer. I never stopped caring about you. I swear. But I got caught up in the future and you used me to get to that future, I snapped. And once you got there, I didn't fit the picture anymore. She stood still, mouth tight, like she didn't know what else to say. I looked around the shop, the tools, the lift, the smell of rubber and oil, and felt steady, stronger than I ever did with her. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm done trying to get answers. You made your bed, and I've got my own life now. She nodded slowly, tears finally falling. So that's it. Yeah, I said. That's it. She wiped her face, turned, and walked toward the door. Just before she stepped outside, she looked back one last time. I did love you, she said. You were the only one who ever really believed in me. I didn't reply. I just watched her go. The second that door shut behind her, something let go inside me. The weight, the questions, the need to be seen by her. Gone. She didn't get the last word. She didn't get to define my story. I looked around my shop again, my shop, and knew exactly where I stood. I wasn't the guy behind someone else's dream anymore. I was free. I stood by the open bay door, a socket wrench in one hand, watching the sun drop behind the shop. The place buzzed with life, tools clanking, someone laughing in the back, the smell of gas and sweat and old metal filling the air. My kind of peace. 2 of my apprentices were still working, both of them barely 20, trying to wrestle a radiator out of a rusted Jeep. I let them struggle for a minute. It's how you learn. Then walked over and showed them where the hidden bolt was. Don't muscle it, I said. Feel it. Let the tool do the work. They nodded, both of them focused, eager like I used to be. I stepped back and leaned against the wall, watching them get it right on the second try. That felt good. I thought back on everything. 5 years of giving up my own life for someone else's dream. The late nights, the quiet sacrifices, the way I used to wait for scraps of attention like they were gold, then the betrayal, the stage, the erasure. I could have let it wreck me. I almost did. But standing here now, watching a business I built with my own hands grow one job at a time, I knew exactly what all that pain bought me. Freedom. I didn't need a fancy degree or some polished life in a glass office. I had this. A crew that looked up to me. Customers who trusted me. A name that meant something. Not because someone gave it value, but because I earned it. People still talked about the videos sometimes. The mechanic who got dumped at graduation. That guy, he was just the beginning. Now I was the man who turned heartbreak into a business, turned silence into purpose, turned getting left behind into moving forward. I didn't need Emily's validation, or anyone else's. I had enough. The shop, the work, the peace that came with knowing I built it all from nothing. And I wasn't done. I had plans to expand. A second lift, maybe a front office upgrade. Hell, even thought about starting a training program for kids fresh out of high school. Give them a place to start where someone believed in them. I looked out across the lot, the sky painted orange and blue. This was mine, and for the first time in my life, that was more than enough.